A warning was recently issued for Americans traveling right now, and it has a lot to do with spring break and what thousands to millions of Americans have planned to do. Now, many of us, we've been cooped up in our houses for years, and it's understandable that we want to get out and travel. However, this advisory is now saying that there's places where you should absolutely not go to as Americans, especially because of the heightened risks. Countries like Russia, Iran, Gaza, Iraq, and about 10% of the countries in the world have a threat level of 4 from our government. That is not good. I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, well, Ron, I really wasn't planning on going to Russia, Iran, Gaza, or Iraq for spring break, so I'm good, right? Well, before I answer that, all I ask of you guys is take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate that, guys. And I just want to thank you so much for always sharing these videos. You guys are amazing. Now, what this means is that we should absolutely not travel to these countries. This is because the US government would have very limited capability in terms of stepping in case anything unfortunate actually happens to us overseas. So just take the situation of Paul Whelan, a US Marines Corps veteran that got stuck in a Russian prison. US counselors officials visited him recently, even with the White House saying that he's innocent. There's nothing they can do. Their jurisdiction can only go so far, and there are places in the world where the US government has absolutely no pull. Which brings us to Mexico. So the US Embassy, and I know a lot of people like to go to Cancun, Mexico for spring break. Anyway, the US Embassy and the consulates in Mexico, they've recently issued a spring break travel warning for Americans who are planning to visit their country. Now, just to be clear, guys, there are places in Mexico where there is a level 4 warning. So this means that we have to absolutely not visit those spots. However, there are places within the country where the warning levels are much lower, which means that those are relatively safe to visit. Some of them are even tourist attractions, especially since people who are looking to unwind, more Americans are buying tickets to go there. So the advisory starts off by saying that Americans should exercise increased caution in the downtown areas of popular spring break location. Guess what, guys? This includes Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum. The warning, though, says that it's vital that these spots be avoided after dark. Many argue that they should be avoided altogether because of the crime that happens in these areas.
A message from the U.S. State Department: do not travel to these 6 states in Mexico. Travel advisories are in effect for 32 Mexican states. These advisories coming to light after the kidnapping of 4 American travelers in the border city of Matamoros. One of them seen in the back of this pickup truck, kidnapped at gunpoint. 2 of them killed. The other 2 found alive and transported back to the U.S.
Attacks on U.S. citizens are unacceptable, no matter where or under what circumstances they happen.
This comes as spring break approaches for many. LAX is expecting 12 million passengers within the next month, traveling all over the world.
Now, what do people usually do when they go overseas? Well, they go out to eat, they go out and drink. Now, granted, not everyone does that on vacation, but this is spring break we're talking about here. The warning highlights the potential hazards of unregulated alcohol and even pharmaceuticals. One can only assess that this could be connected to drug use. Now, most of us are aware of the amount of drugs that come in from Mexico through our borders, specifically the Texas border.
An alert Border Patrol canine named Aldaco stopped nearly $4 million worth of fentanyl from entering the country. The canine alerted on the drugs after agents stopped a car near the Golden Acorn Casino in San Diego County on Monday. Agents found the drugs hidden in the gas tank and a spare tire. The driver was arrested and the drugs were turned over to the DEA.
And this is because it's no secret that a lot of what is being consumed here in the United States is from their country. In fact, a U.S. citizen was recently arrested for attempting to cross back into the United States from Mexico while carrying $130,000 worth of fentanyl. The attempt was made through a ride-share taxi, and since narcotics got the approval of the driver to search the vehicle, well, they found the drugs hidden in several wrapped packages. So getting back to Mexico here, right? We've heard multiple reports of Americans drinking alcohol that has been contaminated. Several U.S. citizens have reported losing consciousness or even becoming injured after consuming alcohol that was possibly tainted. And like I said a while ago, there's also the chance of pharmaceuticals being tampered with. The advisory also noted that counterfeit medication is actually very common in Mexico. So yeah, so while you thought they were just knockoff Rolexes and fake Louis Vuitton bags, well, Well, you can add fake drugs to the list too. So the problem is that these drugs could be just completely ineffective or, in worse cases, have an incorrect strength when it comes to dosage and the ingredients used. The advisory urges Americans who travel to Mexico to purchase medicine from reputable establishments and to seek medical professionals if they are in need of help. Private hospital prices in Mexico can be steep though, so it would be best to just kind of stay healthy whenever you go there. But that's not the worst of it. Things could get much worse once we check the entire travel advisory for Mexico as a whole. So the summary of Mexico, according to the United States, is that it's a country that has a lot of violent crime. Some of the most common ones are homicide, kidnapping, carjacking, and robbery. And it's highlighted here that the United States government has very limited ability to provide any kind of emergency services to Americans in many of these areas of Mexico. And this is one of the reasons as to why some US government employees are prohibited to visit specific areas over there. And like I said a while ago, there are levels set by the United States when it comes to countries we can and we can't visit. Level 4 are the places we're advised never to go to. It goes all the way down to level 1 where normal precautions can be taken and visits are allowed. This advisory shows that only 2 states, Campeche and Yucatan, are at level 1. This means every other state in Mexico is a level 2 or beyond. The main concern here is the crime and the kidnapping that takes place in these areas. But even with that said, and you still feel as if it's okay to go and visit Mexico, then there are a few things that you need to be aware of. Make sure that you have friends and family here in the United States who know where you're going. If you're going with a group, it is best to travel as a group and not solo. If you're ever forced to travel on your own there, share your GPS location to people who you're with. We're also being told that it is best to take a photo of the taxi number and or the license plate whenever we ride one alone. But of course, thousands of Americans go to Mexico every year to celebrate spring break safely. The vast majority of US citizens who travel there annually, they already know which spots to avoid and what not to do when they're there. But here's where things get interesting. We have a travel advisory for Mexico, but many say that it can also be applied to some states and cities here in our country. So the reason behind the idea is the sharp uptick of violent crime in many states, most of them touting that they're sanctuary cities, which asks a very, very important question. Should the Biden administration now issue travel advisories for specific cities or areas right here in the United States? Critics of the White House say that there should at least be advisories for New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago, just to name a few. And I should also note that major crimes have spiked since 2019. We've seen a surge in 7 violent crimes in 2019, all the way to 2023. The year-to-date differences would be around 33.7%. But that's the bigger picture. The Biden administration is now focusing to talk about the rate of crime from 2022 to 2023. In a recent White House meeting with police chiefs from major cities, the president touted that violent crime has gone down since he's taken office. The police officials, they came from different spots in the country that include Chicago, Philadelphia, Miami, Detroit, Buffalo, New York, Milwaukee, Charlotte, North Carolina, DeKalb County, Georgia, and well, now it's up to you guys how you want to assess what the president just said. But with regards to Mexico, many are saying that it might not be worth the time and the trouble to even go there, and especially depending upon how dangerous it's going to be for Americans. But as I always say, I'm going to do my best to keep you guys posted. My job is to keep you guys informed as best I can. So anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thanks for liking the videos. Thank you for sharing them, and I'll see you on the next one.